Before the concept of psychological warfare was even named, a 15th century prince already understood one truth about the human mind. Terror is more effective than any army. In 1462, Sultan Mehmed II marched on Wallachia with a force vastly outnumbering Vlad's own. Vlad did not rely on the battlefield alone. He relied on the psychology of absolute dread. Outside the walls of Targovist, he constructed the Forest of the Impaled, thousands of decaying bodies displayed on wooden stakes, stretching across the horizon. When the Ottoman vanguard reached this spectacle, even hardened soldiers were shaken. The Sultan pressed on to the capital, but found it abandoned. Combined with a devastating night attack, disease spreading through his ranks, and the psychological toll of the impalement fields, Mehmed eventually withdrew his campaign. Vlad understood the availability heuristic. Give the human brain a single, visceral image of extreme suffering, and the mind will overestimate the probability of that suffering happening to it. He did not need to destroy an empire, he only needed to break its nerve. History remembers Cleopatra as a seductress. But her real weapon was far more sophisticated than beauty. It was the psychology of spectacle. Cleopatra ruled a weakened Egypt constantly at the mercy of Rome. To survive, she did not reach for military might. She reached for theatrical illusion. When she sailed to meet Mark Antony at Tarsus, she did not arrive as a monarch asking for terms. She arrived on a gilded barge with purple sails, dressed as the goddess Aphrodite herself, surrounded by musicians and clouds of incense. According to Plutarch, the spectacle was so overwhelming that Antony was left sitting alone in the marketplace, as entire crowds abandoned him to witness her arrival. This is the halo effect. When someone is perceived as magnificent in a single trait, the human brain automatically assumes they are brilliant, powerful, and untouchable in every other trait as well. Cleopatra anchored her identity to divinity, and in doing so, she manipulated the greatest military minds of Rome into serving Egyptian interests, without ever drawing a sword. If Machiavelli wrote the playbook on dark psychology, Cesare Borgia was the man who inspired it. Borgia understood something most rulers never grasp. You can maintain the love of the people while executing brutal oppression, as long as someone else holds the blade. When Borgia conquered the Romagna, it was lawless and chaotic. He appointed a cruel lieutenant named Ramiro de Orco, and gave him absolute authority to pacify the region through any means necessary. Ramiro obliged. He used extreme violence. Order was restored, but Ramiro became deeply hated by the people, and Borgia knew that hatred would eventually shift to him. So one December morning in 1502, the citizens of Cesena woke up to find Ramiro's body cut in 2 pieces, displayed in the public square beside a bloody block and a bloody knife. Borgia had executed his own executioner. Psychologically, this created severe cognitive dissonance. The people were terrified of Borgia's capacity for cruelty, yet simultaneously grateful to him for ridding them of a tyrant. He weaponized a scapegoat to buy their fear and their love at the same time. Genghis Khan built the largest contiguous land empire in human history. And he did it not just through cavalry and siege warfare, but through the systematic weaponization of information. The Mongol military machine was devastating on its own. Superior siege technology, unmatched mobility, and ruthless coordination. But Khan added a layer that most historians overlook: psychological operations. Before his armies reached a city, advanced scouts and merchants who acted as spies would spread carefully crafted rumors. Stories of cities razed to the last soul, tales of rivers running red with blood, exaggerated accounts of an army so vast it darkened the horizon. According to some historical accounts, Mongol soldiers would even light multiple campfires, each to inflate their apparent numbers at night. By the time the Mongol army actually arrived at the gates, much of the psychological battle was already won. Many cities chose surrender over resistance, not because resistance was impossible, but because the Mongols had already broken the will to fight. This is classic information asymmetry. When a human mind is flooded with terrifying, unverifiable information, it defaults to worst-case thinking. Khan did not just conquer territory. He conquered the imagination of his enemies before the first arrow was ever drawn. Zetian is the only woman in the history of China to hold the title of emperor, not empress consort, emperor, and she achieved it by mastering one of the most sophisticated forms of psychological control ever documented: the wholesale rewriting of reality itself. In a society built entirely on patriarchal Confucian values, a female ruler was considered a violation of the natural order. Zetian did not simply suppress this narrative. She replaced it. She commissioned the translation of the Great Cloud Sutra, a Buddhist text that conveniently prophesied the arrival of a female deity destined to rule the world. She created entirely new Chinese characters, the Zetian characters, literally dictating the language her subjects used to think and write. And she installed a system of secret police anchored by bronze petition boxes, where any citizen could drop an anonymous accusation against anyone else. The result was a population turned into a network of paranoid informants, each person watching their neighbor, each neighbor watching them. By destabilizing social trust and positioning herself as a divine inevitability, Wu Zetian exploited what psychologists now call the authority bias. The people did not merely fear her. Their entire framework for understanding legitimate power had been rewritten to make her rule feel like the natural order of the universe.